And good morning, everyone. I had to play the longer introduction because something came up right at the last minute and I had to take care of it as quickly as I could. So normally I won't play those long ones like that, but this time it was kind of necessary. So anyway, today is the 21st of June, 2018. I want to welcome everybody to the Potter Expositor. Of course, my name is Roy Potter. Thank you for coming. Today's going to be a little different. There's actually so much going on with the hearings that I really don't want people to miss that. But I do want you to know that we're looking at it, of course, and I'm sure everybody else is. Good morning as you come in. Thank you for coming. And some people, yesterday or the day before, I can't remember which day it was, I put up the real short clip of a piece from my movie, The Crimson Thread. And why am I bringing this up? Because, we take ourselves so seriously and we really don't understand history. If you've ever watched my series on how I made the movie, and yes, it was an amateurish attempt to bring to the screen my book, and I realize that. But considering the financial restrictions, the fact that we had to do almost everything in front of a blue screen, the number of people was very small that we used, and it was really hard to get them together. There were a lot of things, and you can watch the series about how I made it, and I put it in my playlist if you want to look at it. Kind of interesting, if no other reason than a comedy show, I guess. But the real point of me putting up that situation with with Nathan Wood, he's playing the character Yossi in the movie, which the movie and the book kind of explain why I don't call that character Jesus, but that's who you would know it to be. As I said, we sometimes take ourselves so so seriously that we really don't understand really history. We go with our traditions and what makes us feel good without really understanding the underlying difficulties and problems. We can't even get, as Nathan said in the interview after, I think it's the last interview in the making of the Crimson Thread. I think he says we can't even get the history right today. What happened yesterday, much less 2,000 years ago, and then you throw in politics and war and disinformation and all of that, and it really is hard. So I don't claim to, in that movie or in the book for that matter, to know the truth. What my whole point in that effort was, and still is to point out that things in history aren't like we think they are, and that things are quite a bit different. So at any rate, if you go see that clip, you'll notice it was like 3 a.m. and we had been taking these different takes of these different scenes all night long, and I don't remember all the details as to why it took us so long, but maybe partly because we were tired, which kind of added to the ambiance of the environment in the movie. But Nathan, after he finished the last line of the night, and like I said, we had taken that take several times, and he said just before we took the last one, he said, "Roy, I got to have a beer." And I said, "Hey, what the heck? Just keep it all camera. I don't care." And so he sat there with it. He took a few sips, and then we did the scene. And then right after, as you see, he takes a swig of beer. And then I noticed somebody sent me a message. I guess somebody wrote it in the comments. Like I say, I don't really look at the comments, but he said, "Look at this." And this person wrote in and said, "That was blasphemy." Maybe they meant the whole movie, the book, or that particular scene. I don't know, but that's what I mean about us taking things too seriously. We really don't even know what blasphemy is. We think, anyway. I don't want to get into a whole philosophical discussion of it, but the point is that we had a lot of fun making that movie, actually, and to watch Nathan do that, it was one of the lighter hysterical moments, I think, of that whole effort. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it. It's real short. It's less than a minute long and kind of explains, the background of it. And I'll probably do a lot more of that, not necessarily just on that particular movie. I'm actually working on some other things as well right now, and I might put some of those things up as I go. I don't know. I haven't decided on that yet, but it really is kind of fun to do this. I've done some music videos for people. I've done some outdoor, not really adventure shows, but information on different outdoor activities, things like that. So anyway, we're still doing that, but it's mostly for fun. It does get me out and traveling around a little bit, so that's kind of nice. Okay, the major thing, like I said, that's happening, and we don't want to lose focus on it. Everybody knows about what's happening at the border and the BS and the lies and the deceits and I should say everybody knows about it, but in reality, most people really don't understand what's happening down there and actually across the nation with this whole thing. And it's another one of those, and it's a deflection, because as anybody who's looked into it knows, these policies were put into place that everybody's objecting to many, many years ago. And Trump he just said, okay, we're just going to enforce the law. We'll just do it that way, which was really kind of a bait. And of course, they made an issue of it, and then he addressed it. And I'm not sure it was the best way to do it. I don't like bending to the leftist mentality, the Marxist mentality that is really rising to a crescendo in this country, and it's very dangerous. And it's not, and I hate to tell you, but it's not just in the liberal side, the Marxist side of what's going on. I'm seeing it more and more also in elements in the right, what would be considered the right wing. Unirock did an excellent show last night. I've been giving him a lot of shout outs lately. But you got to understand, he's a buddy vet, and I think we see things quite alike. Even though I can tell that we're different in a number of ways, we still see things in much the same way. And he brought out a show last night. I think it was yesterday or last night, about what's happening in the conservative movement, what we would normally call the conservative movement, but that aspects of it, in my estimation, have been usurped by what would I say? Those for their own purposes, maybe influenced by others. But I guess my point there is that we need to be aware that these things are happening across the spectrum, not just on one side. It's really not a party issue. It's really not even an ideological issue of conservative and liberal. It's really a mindset that has been fed to the people, and we're eating it. It's what wolf you feed, and unfortunately, too many people are feeding the wolf of contention. Now, I'm not saying I haven't contributed to that. I have, because, as you all know, I've been I call out politicians, as a matter of fact. I usually don't call out individuals. There are a lot of people I could call out who are just regular citizens, or on the media, on YouTube, Twitter, whatever. There are a lot of people I could call out. I usually don't. I try to approach them by explaining the positive side as best I can. But politicians, no. They're open range targets as far as I'm concerned. When they make their promises, they don't fulfill them, or they become deceitful. We need to be hard on them, and that includes President Trump, and I know most of you understand that. But at any rate, so there's a lot going on there with these different elements, and they're using this thing on the border to detract from the evidence. And who's surprised about this? And I'm not telling you all anything you don't already know. To detract from the corruption, the criminality, and indeed even the treason of not. They want to focus on certain members of the intelligence community. Right now, Strzok's taken the hit in the FBI. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but there have been those who said, they're going to have a sacrificial lamb, probably one or two, and I'd say it's looking like McCabe and Strzok at this point. But at any rate, the fact of the matter is that as we watch this thing develop, we see the desperation and the willingness on the part of the Marxist left that has infiltrated all of our institutions to not even use, not just Saul Alinsky tactics, not just the idea of really it's the same thing that you see all the time in propaganda. And they'll tell you one thing, then something else will happen, and then they'll tell you that this actually happened, and people buy it because it's coming across, especially the MSM, which we've warned about. The CIA equals the MSM, etc. So those types of things are a real problem in our country right now and across the world, but mostly with Americans, because we've been asleep for so long. We believe that our system could operate without us really doing anything but coming out and voting once every 4 years or whatever. And we haven't taken an active part. And there are aspects of what appear to be the conservative movement that have fomented and encouraged inaction over the last almost 8 months now. Well, it's been longer than that, 8 or 9 months. And, the idea, and everybody knows who I'm talking about here, but the idea that, the plan's going to take care, you don't have to worry about it, just sit back and watch the show, that kind of thing. And so then we have all of these other things that start happening because people refuse to believe that there's anything that they need to do. The idea that even in religion, that God's going to take care of everything for you. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have faith in God, but you wouldn't be here in this world if everything was going to be done for you. It just isn't the case. And people that preach that are really trying to put others at a disadvantage. So whenever I see that statement, I take an immediate caution. Okay? And it's a form of gaslighting, and that's really what I've been talking about this entire time. There's a massive move at gaslighting all across the spectrum on what's happening in the United States in particular today. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the hearings. Nothing in depth. Actually, I'm going to get right to the chat here in a few minutes. Let me make sure that's operating here. Yeah, it's on. Good. Okay, so that's kind of an introduction about where we're going. Definitely, this entire thing on the border is designed to drive people to that subject rather than watching what's happening really inside the government. It's also to cover the tracks of the actual guilty. Bush, Clinton, and certainly Obama, and all of the things that they have done to both legal and illegal immigrants, for that matter, and the entire program, how it's been set up, and what we're really seeing here. And this is why I was so upset with what I saw happening in Tucson. Again, I don't want to get too deep into that. That's still, I think, an emotional issue with a lot of people. But more of the truth of that whole situation is coming out. And I said, remember, I put out a video and I said, look, this thing is going to be used in one way or another to go after Trump. So that was kind of the primer, that whole thing in Tucson. And I could kind of see that, and that's why I brought it up. It was a primer. And then all of a sudden, as soon as they got everybody's attention on the idea of child trafficking, that's a problem. But that got their attention on the immigration thing and how they're running the border. And they moved it then the whole discussion to supposedly that we're imprisoning these poor kids and taking them from their families, and not telling where that came from and why, the problem with child trafficking. And it's not just in the old administrations, I have to point it out, but I think you got to see this, that these rules and regulations and policies were put into place to actually encourage and to assist in child trafficking. We heard about it, and people who are willing to talk about it have talked about, during the Obama administration times in particular, they'd grab these kids and they'd send them off to these different cities and locations and give them to these supposed charitable organizations that really we don't know who they are or what or where the kids ended up. And so it's what it is. It's another way of gaslighting or deflection, and they're trying to push that over on Trump. And I was afraid that would happen, and they did. That's exactly where they went with it. They're pushing the whole child issue over on Trump, who would be the last politician to ever do something like that. And I can rest assured that that's the case. But at any rate, it's a real problem. It goes, the whole thing that's going on here on the border, and I talked about it many years ago. It has to be shut down, and the military really does have to be involved on the border. It's just a fact. Nothing against the Border Patrol, but there are just some things, and I talked about it in my Borders, Mexican Drug War or Insurgency documentary, which is also on the playlist there, about how that has to operate in order for it to work. The Border Patrol does a great job, but they really need the assistance at this point of the military. Even when the wall's there, once the wall's up, if it ever gets there, a barrier is no good unless there are eyes on it. And you have to have basically fast reaction groups and things like that, teams that can go out and respond to different things. It's going to be a massive operation, but it'll be much more worthwhile in our overall security than what the IC and the military-industrial complex has tried to have us do over the last 60 years, which is regime change and making the world USA, right? That's not the way we should be operating, and hopefully we're getting away from that. That's all I want to say with that, because it is a distraction. But look how mean it's gotten. What the Fonda character said about Barron. Why do these people on that side always bring in a child, and yet, there we go again, the double standard, the hypocrisy, and it's just, boy, I know they're trying to protect Barron, but he's got to be seeing some of this stuff, and it's got to be troubling to him, and these evil people that are doing that. But that's what they do. They'll tell you. Every tyrant in history has said, we got to protect the children. We got to liberate the children. Every time they talk about trying to take away your Second Amendment rights, what are they usually using? The children. It's baloney. The tyrants will always use that as a reason to take away the rights of the rest of the people, or to justify wars elsewhere, which is still taking away people's rights. So we're seeing that play out now. If you've never read Saul Alinsky's material, you probably ought to at least look at it. There are some things on the internet that break down the basic tenets of Alinsky tactics. And when you look at it, they're all there. And they're basically Luciferian tactics. They're about lie and deceit and accuse others. Isn't that interesting? Because I've told you the word shaitan, as we talked about the other day, Satan, it actually means accuser. And that's exactly what they do. That's what happens. So anyway, long introduction there. I did want to bring up the corruption thing in Israel. Some of this I imagine is political, and I haven't looked into it real deep, but apparently Netanyahu's wife has been indicted for fraud. Well, we see how indictments work, so that doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot. I imagine the system of you could indict a ham sandwich in the USA is the same in Israel. But the point is that there are these things going on now. I think some are legitimate. Certainly the things against Trump are not. But we're seeing this move all over. And I'm not sure whether it's good or bad in Israel at this point. There are people that say, of course it's good. Netanyahus are bad people. Well, I can't disagree with that. But at the same time, I'm a little concerned that this might be a method to try to shut down Trump in that area. I could be wrong, but that's kind of how I'm looking at it at this point. We'll see how it works out. It's just something that we need to keep an eye on. Whether we like it or not, Israel is a major world player. And that's why I said that despite the fact I don't believe that the nation state of Israel has anything to do with the Israel that's supposed to be restored in the last days, for a lot of reasons I don't believe that. Regardless, it's still a major player in the world. And we have to work in the world as we find it. We have to deal with it. We might know better than the claims that are made according to it. And of course, like I've said, the Orthodox Jews, many of them don't believe that it's the restored Israel of ancient times, with very good reason. But that's really immaterial. It's how it's looked at as a nation state and it's functioning in the political climate. And Trump has to address that. He just does. So we'll see where that goes. I noticed this morning, before we get into the hearings, I noticed this morning, and I don't know how you all feel about this, and I'm not a financial guy, and I've said this before, but it seems like every time the economy starts to improve, what's one of the first things that we see happen? Home prices start going up. Now, for people that already own homes, it's touted to them by the real estate industry and by the financial industry that, oh, this is good, your property values are going up, that's really good for you. But on the opposite side of that, of course, is if you end up having to buy a home, whether selling your old one or just buying one, it becomes more and more difficult. This playing with the economy, and I understand the capitalistic idea of supply and demand, I know that. But these manipulations, especially in the real estate area, as well as gas, you see what happens with gasoline. Boy, they really play with that all the time. And it's because we rely on it. Gas is very much a national security, it's a fuel. It's very much a national security thing. Well, housing is too. They keep talking about, healthcare. Well, healthcare is not going to help you if you don't have a roof over your head to keep you out of the elements. And yet this horrible stuff keeps happening in the housing industry. And so I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, well, home prices are going up again. Who does that help? Nobody. Not really, except the banks and the government that raises property taxes, because inevitably, the home prices go up, and then what happens? The local governments go, hey, this property is worth more than it was the last time we did all of these. I forget what they call it, but at any rate, when they go through and the property tax people assess your property. So they raise your property taxes. So what it ends up doing is it costs you across the board. It really isn't a good thing that home prices fluctuate the way they do. And it's a lot of speculation. So we're starting to see that again in my estimation. It's going to hurt young couples, young people trying to get homes, trying to get housing. And I know that there are incentives to help, supposedly, to buffer the the damage that causes. But in fact, in the long run, it's very damaging. No matter what you do at the front end of it, it's damaging because of the long-term interest rates and all those things. So it hurts the new people that are trying to get homes. And in reality, people that already have homes, if they want to move into another home, all they're doing is they're unless they're trying to upgrade, which I don't know, that's a personal choice. But the point is, they're still going to pay more. Even though their property is worth more, they're going to pay more over here. So this is a game that's played by the banking system and by the Federal Reserve. And of course, the real estate industry, construction industry as a whole. It's a very fine line, but I see it being a problem. And then, of course, with the property taxes, that the damn local governments then try to get more money, even when they don't deserve it. What happens there is that people on fixed incomes, the retired, elderly people, whatever, can't afford even the property taxes. It gets difficult for them to do that. So it's an evil system that home prices are used. It's unfortunate that, and I know this economically, there'll be arguments about this one way or the other. And I'm not a financial guy. Again, I'm not claiming to be. But when you have something as important to people as housing, it seems wrong to me. And people say, well, Roy, you're starting to sound like a communist or a socialist. Well, my point is that certain parts of a capitalistic system do need to be controlled, and this constant fluctuation that I see, which is really playing the markets for the rich. Yeah, it's true. Is to me a very evil thing. And so I'm just saying that I don't think that this is a very good situation that we're seeing with property taxes going up and housing prices and all of that. It's defeating the purpose of trying to recover. You can't recover in one section of the economy and recover in all the others. I don't believe that. And local governments, they always say, oh, our population this is a really good one. Our population has increased, like in Utah in particular, especially along the Wasatch Front, there's been a really huge population increase there. And the reason is because it's continued to be one of the strong economic areas in the country. So people come here, new jobs open up, and so people come here, and then all of a sudden the prices start going up and all that in the housing area. And then eventually the people can't even afford to get into a home. But what's interesting is that the local governments, they're getting all these new people that are now paying local taxes. They're now paying property taxes. They're now buying things, sales taxes. So you see where I'm going with this. Why is it that they always say, oh, we have more people, we have to raise taxes, when in fact, those people are already paying taxes? So in other words, they never tell you the whole story. And I don't know if you see what I'm saying there, but it's ridiculous. Your population goes up, you're having more people pay taxes. Why do you have to raise taxes? It's a joke. It's a lie, really, what it is. I could see where maybe the other way there might be a problem. You build an area up to where it's taking so much money to operate, and then you start losing people. But then you don't want to raise their rates, the people that stay, because you're just encouraging them to leave or whatever. I know all this is very tricky to balance, but the banking system as it's set up today, the whole 1913 Federal Reserve Act has done nothing but caused chaos in the United States and really in the Western world, if not the entire world. Most of the reason for the wars around the world are to convince countries that are not part of the international banking system, which the Federal Reserve is. Those who do not want to take part in that, they try to force them into it. That's what we saw in Iraq. Iraq too. Libya. Almost in every situation, that's the case. And so I don't know if this kind of evil will ever be eradicated, at least not peacefully. And it's very, very sad. Okay, moving on. Deep State is still at war with America. Trump and America. And we're seeing that in all of this stuff that's going on in the hearings. It's all coming out in the mainstream media, and the CIA, the IC, the FBI are all trying to move our attention to this thing on the border with the children, of course, again. And unfortunately, it's successful. There are major mainstream media outlets that are not covering the hearings at all. And yet it's the most important thing really going on in the world right now is what's happening, because as I have said with the slogan, the motto on my channel, the intelligence community is our most dangerous domestic enemy. And that included the FBI. I've always included the FBI in that. We're seeing that play out now, and they're doing everything they can to obfuscate, obstruct, camouflage, everything. We have to win this war against the intelligence community, and particularly the FBI and the state and the upper levels of the State Department. I still don't think Pompeo's cleaned that out, but that's a major problem, and I've called for that. Of course, Judicial Watch has also called for it now that really Trump needs to go ahead and have the U.S. Marshals, which are still part of the Department of Justice, but he has a little more leeway with them. They're not. I'm not saying they aren't corrupt, but the opportunity for corruption in the U.S. Marshal Service, I don't think, is as high as it is in like the FBI or the DEA or the alcohol, the ATF, things like that. I don't think they can either ignore something or act on it, and that can be good or bad depending upon how they do things. Sort of like what we saw in Oregon. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about there, but the way they treated some of the people from the demonstration that happened up there in Burns. But at any rate, I think they're a little more able to be managed and controlled than the FBI, etc. So the U.S. Marshal Service, as has been suggested, aspects of Department of Homeland Security, which I find to be kind of sad that we'd have to use them. I don't like DHS at all. We've got too much of this in our country right now. Too many of these things. But that'll be a subject for another program at some time, I think. But we have the U.S. Marshal Service that's part of the DOJ, the separate Department of Homeland Security. It's separate from DOJ. And then, of course, the DOD, particularly the U.S. Marines. I really think that Trump needs to move. I think he's still giving probably, Jordan and those guys, Nunes, etc., a chance to fully expose this thing. But we're reaching a dangerous time, and I saw last night, actually we're in it already. I saw last night as I was perusing all of this that there are people that are now very, very much concerned that the FBI, there are elements in the FBI, and this is a terrible thing to say, and I don't have any proof of it all other than actions in the FBI in the past. And we can talk again about World Trade Center 93. We can talk about the Garland situation. We can talk about Todashev being shot down there in Florida. We can even talk about, I said the other day, and I didn't mean that the discussion that was happening with these FBI officials a year ago, that they should have brought up the thing with the Sater guy that was the FBI agent who was shot, and his wife, that's what they should be worried about. Because I know the time element, that was an anachronism, but I just meant that kind of a thing should be of their concern. That's the problem, not trying to interfere in the elections and things like that, which isn't saving the country, it's just destroying it. But at any rate, there are other FBI agents who have been taken out. Robin Greitz. Now that was an administrative thing, but she's a good example, standing up for herself. And Sybil Edmonds is another one. And there are several others who were around that whole 9/11 thing that were really mistreated because they were bringing it out. And of course, Mueller at the time was he was very guilty in suppressing all the information about the truth of 9/11, covering it up. Well, right after the Boston bombing, I don't know if most of you know about this, when I did that whole expose, there were 2 FBI agents that were killed in a training accident involving helicopters. And it's very likely, when I looked into that those 2 guys were starting to raise red flags. And they died, and nobody said anything. And the whole Bureau just kept going forward. And then we see the Las Vegas shooting and what's happened there. More information, thanks to Laurel Loomer and Shepard Ambulis and Jake Morphonios and others, have pointed out all this new information coming out about the Las Vegas shooting, and the FBI covering up that it's a terrorist deal. Because however you look at that, it's now, as we said at the time, it was obviously an assassination attempt, and then the attack at the Harvest Festival was part of the distraction. Those poor people that were injured and killed there. It's to drop that into the file 13 bin of history at this point is very wrong, and I hope that eventually President Trump, I'm sure he knows more about it than most of us do. He needs to bring that out, and maybe during this entire thing where the FBI needs to be totally dismantled, the truth of all of this will come out. So what I saw last night was this idea, and I think it's true, that the FBI, there are aspects of the FBI that could actually attempt an assassination on President Trump. I do believe that capability, that mindset is there. Just because some agents who are decent don't think so, that doesn't mean it isn't true. Again, the FBI has had 2 or 3 decades to load its ranks with the same type of people we see in Strzok and Page and McCabe, and all through the organization. We've seen how they operate at Waco, at Ruby Ridge, at Malheur, at Bundy Ranch, Garland. Again, I mean, it's just mind-boggling how pervasive it is, and it really needs the oversight really needs to be more strict and compulsive, and have more teeth in it. The FBI and the Justice Department are not a separate place in government, and it's not vested upon them to run our republic. They're supposed to protect it, and not protect it by interfering in an election. That's even if Trump was a communist, I'll take it that far. Although that they would support that, I hate to tell you, but they would have supported that, just like they were supporting Hillary. But even if he was, some type of a horrible, actor of some sort, you don't interfere with an election. You leave that alone. But see, they've gotten away with it for so long, especially in foreign countries. Like, they just did it in Ukraine 2 years ago, right? So they feel that they have a right to do that, but they're not. They're to protect the Republic of the United States of America and its the way it operates. And they're not. I mean, why weren't they against Hillary, who would have started a war, or any number of other things? There's some real problems here. As I've often said, there's this dividing that's going on, and it really is a divide between good and evil. And it's so obvious. If you have the spirit of discernment from God, even if you don't ask for it, but it's in your heart, you're seeing this divide, and it really is happening. It absolutely is. People are really taking one side or the other, and even when they don't try to, it just is evident in the things that happen, and we're really seeing that, and how evil it has been in the intelligence community, especially the FBI and the CIA. So at any rate, I'm a little worried about where we're going here, and it's very possible that something, when you start allowing people like the Fondas and Philip Mudd of the CIA, Kathy Griffith, all these people simulating murder or calling for murder or for criminal action against somebody like President Trump and his family, and they don't get arrested. Philip Mudd should have been in jail a year ago. He said that the government's going to kill Trump. Oh, I didn't quite mean it that way. Hey, he said it. If I said it and I didn't mean it, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to get a knock at the door from the Secret Service. And he probably didn't even have that. This is just out of control. And these people need to be arrested, locked up, tried, and if found guilty, the key thrown away or executed, whichever is decided upon. Okay. I don't know if I was real clear on all that. They're definitely very difficult, convoluted, I'll just say it that way, and complicated subjects. But unfortunately, we've been put in a situation where we're being forced as a people to now fine tune our perceptions, our understandings, and where we stand on principle. And it's not going to be easy, but hopefully the end result is, a good reward if we pick the right thing. As some people have said, we're at a position now as a, I don't like to call us a species. I'll just say I think mankind is at a position right now in history where, as some commentators have said, that we really are at a point where we can totally destroy ourselves, or we can go to the next level in our, I don't like to say consciousness, but maybe that's the only way to explain it, where we can go to the next level and overcome these horrible things that we've been doing for how many thousands of years. Let's hope so, because I think that the future will be amazing for our children, our grandchildren, maybe even ourselves, if we can do that. Okay. And I'll end this whole thing on the IC and the hearings on this. The IC, the intelligence community, and the FBI, isn't it interesting that, and I don't think a lot of people have talked about this, Russia interfered in our elections. Russia interfered in our elections. How terrible. They interfered in our elections. Well, my question is, IC, FBI, where were you to stop it in the first place? And some people said that about Obama too. When he first heard about this, why didn't he do something about it? The point is, I think that they're in a very subtle way. They're trying not to, but in a subtle way. In fact, they are admitting their incompetence or their collusion, since they like the word. All right, they're either admitting incompetence or that they were part of the problem. That's what they're saying. I don't think it's incompetence. Okay. Kind of a roundabout way to talk about some things this morning, but this is really where I really wanted to go. We're going to go ahead and jump into the chat and see what we got going on here. Gordon Oog. I've seen you the last couple of days here. You say that we're starting to wake up. Yeah, I think so. Roy, talk about the Getty Museum and what's under it. I'm sure you know. Ooh. Well, I don't have any first-hand proof of that. However, I think we're understanding now that this problem with child trafficking and pedophilia and the passing of children through Molech, I'll just put it that way, it has permeated our entire socioeconomic spectrum, and it's very evil. And we really do need to deal with it. And I think that's one of the things that has to happen before mankind can go to the next level. Because, an abortion, and people are going to hate me for saying this, some of you, not all of you, but the whole idea of the Sanders of eradicating, the black race, and then the way abortion has been used, supposedly, it goes against a woman's. Women will say, "You're not a woman, don't speak for us." Well, you're the birth givers, and to kill your own offspring is just not natural. I'm sorry, it just isn't. I'm not saying there aren't reasons at times. I don't want to get into those philosophical things, but the bottom line is the entire abortion movement has been a Luciferian sacrifice to the god Molech. That's exactly what it is, and the entire child trafficking, that whole situation is too, and it needs to be fully exposed. And there are people that say, "Oh man, we can't do that. It'll cause mass suicides. People will go into insane asylums." Well, there's the divide for you. That's the way I look at it. What can be shaken shall be shaken. And if people can't look at evil in the face and admit that it's there, they're part of the problem. It needs to be entirely exposed. And I think that's where Trump wants to go. And it's one of the reasons why, as hard as I am on him, I support him, because his efforts in so many things are so good, and the opposition that he faces is so intense that it just can't be a show. It just can't be. In other words, I think he's on the right side, and that's why I hope that, and I pray at the end of these things, of course, that the spirit of discernment will stay with him, and then he'll have the courage to do the right thing. Not that he will all the time, My Republican insider in California, he's constantly saying to me, "Hey, Roy, I'll be happy if I get 60% of what Trump wants to do. I'll be happy if I get that much." So, and there's some truth to that. Okay. And I'm not going to get into particular aspects of the biblical. Some people want to start talking about, specifics in who's responsible, what God, how they influence, and all that. We don't want to do that here. I think we can see when something is bad and when it isn't. And I really don't want to get into a discussion of the different sects, SECTS. And right now, I think we just need to stay in some general ideas, okay? I see somebody's bringing up John Martin, bringing up Martin Taylor prophecies, seem to be more accurate than all the other media forums. Well, there are people out there, and I don't know Mark Taylor that much. I've seen a lot about him. I haven't really looked into it that much. Yeah, it's possible. I think a lot of us can look at especially if you do have the spirit of discernment, you can see through quite a bit. But of course, when it comes to religion, I'm really careful, because so often that can turn into, here we go with it again, a cultic type behavior. I thank Mark Taylor for doing what he's done. There were, and I don't know how close he was compared to, say, Kim Clement, who Trey Smith is very much adhered to. Of course, Kim died a few years back. If you know about that whole thing with him prophesying also that Trump would come. But he also said that Bill Gates would help the economy. So I don't know about that. But the point is that, we get these bits and pieces, and it's still up to us to make sure that we stay on the right path and don't sit back, as some movements would have you do. Sit back, let the plan work, enjoy the show, and eat the popcorn, right? You gotta take issue. You got to get out and you got to do something. Okay. Yeah, isn't that funny? Christian paradigms. When Dems whine about the laws that are being enforced that they helped create, you can bet they wanted to create chaos out of what they call order. Absolutely. That's Saul Alinsky. You just said it in a very succinct way. That's exactly what it is. It's a form of the Hegelian dialectic, an Alinsky tactic, where you cause a problem and then other people are forced to deal with it and you blame them for it. That absolutely. You accuse others of what you yourself have done, and so many people do not understand that. And that's why they can get away with it. The American people have been so dumbed down for so long. Even the upper social economic layers. I talk to some of these people, and they haven't got a clue. They're real good at what they do in their little niche, but they know nothing about what's really happening. And they just go through day after day. And I don't know. Sometimes I almost envy that. Because as we've talked about, the scriptures say a wise man is a man of sorrow, and it's very true. You see these things, and you're really powerless to stop most of it. So why even bother? Because that's the struggle, that's the awakening, that's the understanding, that's the seeing of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and being able to do the best you can to choose the good, and to not be in that battle. Sun Tzu said, as a lot of you know who have studied it, to be in the battle is more important, of course, than not. The strong are in the battle, the weak are not. And we're in a battle of the consciousness right now, and of right and wrong. And to be in that is an important thing for us. We may not be making lots of money. We got to take care of business, of course. But the bottom line is are we developing? Are we coming up to where we would like to be, and especially where God would have us go. And He's really in ultimate charge of all of this. But it is frustrating, I'll admit. Okay. It looks like the chat stopped. Well, that might be a good thing. We've been going on for about 50 minutes here. Let me see if anybody has any serious questions. You can ask about anything here. Let's see what we got. Shockwave, trust but verify and question everything. I agree. Amazon Arm says it's all smoke and mirrors. Deception is the name of the game. This is the age of deception. Absolutely. The age of deceit and lies. It really is. And it's from everywhere. Yeah, the greater part, Teflon One, a huge part of society have been, they don't have any idea what's going on in the real world, and that's true. They really don't. Watchman on the Wall. Yes, I agree with you. I hate to admit it. You've quoted Thessalonians here. Boy, my computer's jumping all over the place here. Let me see if I can get it to cooperate. Strong delusion is being sent on us that we want to believe a lie, and most of us are that way. But that's the test. That's the test. Roy, the IG report. Mark, SMI. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to get into the particulars of that. I've actually got a copy of it. I've read it through. And there's more that's going to be coming. And actually, I was being attacked by people that said, hey, you can't say what you're saying about it because there's more coming and it's all just going to be released easy. Hey, all I'm saying is that it's obvious that the IG, the Department of Justice, the IG can only report. His job, whether we like it or not, is to only suggest improvements in the DOJ to prevent what's happened before. He's really not a prosecutor. Supposedly that information was given to Huber to do, who I don't trust to do that for a lot of reasons. Maybe take out a couple, like I've said, but I don't think that Huber's the real guy. I think President Trump actually has a whole other team, as I've kind of alluded to in the past. But the IG report is admitting maybe, and I hate to put a percentage on it, a quantifier, a quantity. Certainly the quality is questionable, but they're really not saying what happened here. This wasn't just political bias. This was a seditious, treasonous act by members of the FBI and the intelligence community, and possibly even treason. And they're trying to whitewash it. Firing Strzok isn't enough. He needs to be prosecuted. All those people must be prosecuted. If they're not, then the deep state is in complete control, and Trump isn't. So the IG is a problem. I see, I've talked about it a little bit over the past few days, but so much is coming out. I don't really want to be on that too much, because so many, watching it on C-SPAN, etc., is really important for you. There are those out there who will read through it and give you the information. And again, I'm not here to do what everybody else does. If you want that, then you need to go there. In some circumstances, you really need to. I kind of grab it all. I put it in a ball, and I present it to you in kind of an exposition, like the Potter expositor, right? The generalities, so that you know how to act. And the bottom line is the IG report, as we've talked about for months, as many of us have said, is going to be a whitewash. It's still going to be devastating in a lot of ways, but then only if action is taken, the appropriate action. And unfortunately, firings and bias training and all that baloney isn't what's needed. What's needed is these people need to be arrested and prosecuted. I don't care if it's the director of the FBI. And I'm really starting to, I've been suspicious of Wray for a long time, but I'm seeing more and more for him to come out and say that he's, and it was the IG that said, well, you need to do bias training. And he says, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do bias training. But there was no bias in the FBI. Oh, good grief. Get rid of Wray. Get rid of Sessions. Get rid of all of those people. As a matter of fact, get rid of the FBI and hand it all over to the U.S. Marshals. This is just outrageous, what they've done to the FBI. I've never really had a lot of respect. I remember Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. Remember Now I'm showing my age, but the program, the FBI, and everything about the government is always elevated to the point of worshiping it, glorifying it, almost making it like God. And the fact of the matter is, you need to be very suspicious of anybody who has that kind of power. Any institution that has that kind of power, you need to be suspicious of it, and it needs to be locked down, which was the purpose of the Constitution in the first place, locked down, chained down with the chains of the Constitution. Yeah, Leviathan, Draco, they will never be prosecuted. Trump can't let that happen. Politically, it might be dangerous, but if he allows them to get away with this, they're going to do it again. This is on Trump, and I've said that for a long time. I guess, of course, the last vestige of authority in the country is the people, but you know how they deal with that. These government entities. You stand up against them, and then they want to come after you for violating some law that they invented to control you, or do parallel construction or whatever. If Trump wants to be the champion, and he said he wanted to be the champion, we can rally around him, and we have that what's termed competent authority to get behind. Even though the IC and the FBI were trying to destroy that and say that he was a Russian asset. Which again, the election nullifies most of that anyway, their claims, if it were even true. But, I mean, Obama made it in, right? I mean, if there was anybody that was out to destroy the Republic of the United States of America, it was Obama. And they didn't get concerned about that. Why? Because they're really about implementing the leftist Marxist system. And they're using our own values against us. You see that with the Christian thing, right? Oh, even Clinton. Oh my gosh, Hillary Clinton quotes the Bible and says, "Oh, the little children, Jesus said, let them come to him." And then she tries to manipulate that into saying that Americans are wrong in protecting their borders. Well, she forgot about all the rest of the scripture. And, people will quote. You need to take care of the traveler in your land, the traveler, the sojourner, somebody who's passing through, not a frickin' invader. An invader, you're commanded to stand up with weapons to stop them. And they twist all of these things, and they try to use your Christian values against you. Even Christian ministers do not understand the scriptures. It just amazes me. And that's because they're deep state actors. I will call them deep state actors. I'm really getting tired of people. I see the standard accusation for anybody who stands, I'll have to say it unfortunately, the standard accusation against anybody who stands up and questions Q is that you're a deep state actor. And I saw one person do that here the other day that I hadn't seen her do it before. Maybe she has. On Twitter. Twitter is where all this happens, by the way, primarily. There's a little bit on YouTube, but the reason why Q is on Twitter is because the Twitter keys are so easily manipulated. Now, I know you don't know what I'm talking about there, but that's the fact of the matter. On YouTube or on Facebook, they just wouldn't be able to survive the way they do on Twitter. But at any rate, they're trying to expand out, and I don't want to get into any particulars here, because I don't want to go down that road. But the point is that I see these people, the first thing that they do if somebody disagrees with Q or points out that all their predictions aren't correct, not that they even need to be. I don't even expect that. I understand the intelligence thing, that things change, that things are fluid. But when you see these people attacking others who have been long-standing patriots and say they're deep state because they don't accept Q or question it, man, I don't know what's happened to those people. I really don't. That type of intellectual dishonesty and prejudice and cultic behavior is, especially from people that claim to have had intelligence experiences, just it's mind-boggling to me, and it's wrong. And one of the people that has been viciously attacked, a lot of people have, UniRock has, Nathan Stoltman and others, but the one that I've seen be attacked more than. But over a lot of these issues has been David Seaman. Yeah, David Seaman, I've seen him off and on, and actually his organization has contacted me. We've had a little bit of communication. But David Seaman, he does the very best he can. He's not a shill for the Zionists. That's baloney. He's not a deep state actor, but these people that want to shut him down accuse him of that. And if you allow people, if somebody calls somebody a deep state actor and you just accept it face value, I'm disappointed. Don't do that. That's become a name calling very similar to juveniles in junior high school throwing rocks. Okay, and for somebody who supposedly has the intelligence and both the intelligence, IQ, and also the experience to know better, to accuse somebody like that of being deep state is juvenile and insulting, and it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. That's not arguing facts. That's resulting in name calling. Why would you think disappointed Roy is avoiding the Gary Burns RICO racketeering lawsuit against Hillary and all? Why would you think I'm avoiding that? I can't cover everything you want me to. All right? I tell you what, Mistrial, we've had some good conversations before in the past. If you want to talk about it, start a YouTube channel, and I'll even promote you. I'll even talk, hey, go listen to this person, which I doubt that's your real name, and you can expose all of that. Okay? I'm not here to tell you 100% of everything that's happening in the world every day. Okay? I'm not here to do that. I look at that's very important. I'm not saying it isn't. But why don't you cover it? Don't be lazy. Yeah, war isn't fair. Boy, isn't that true. Okay, we've been going on for an hour here. Oh, yeah, the new testimonies that are coming up. Oh, yeah, a lot of crazy stuff's going to be coming out, especially next week. But like I said, what I'm looking for is I'm sick and tired of them. They throw these dog and pony shows, these hearings. Trey Gowdy's always opening his big mouth and talking big stuff and then never does jack crap. And even Nunes and Jordan, they keep threatening. Oh, they're going, and I think they actually may be doing it now. Oh, we're going to impeach Rosenstein, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And how many weeks now have they been saying they're going to do that, and they keep putting it off? Man, you don't make threats and not carry them out. And so they better damn sight impeach Rosenstein today or tomorrow. They better damn sight do it, or they're going to look pretty foolish. They're going to look weak. Okay, Freedom Fighter 57. Here's a good example of not taking ourselves too seriously. He says, who's going to win the World Series? Thanks. Sometimes we need to relax a little bit and take it easy. Okay. What do I think about the Jesuits? Wow, Rhoda McGregor. Jesuits have been a problem for hundreds of years. It's very likely that they're linked in. A lot of people will say, oh, it's the Catholics, it's the Jesuits, and then you'll get the people that say it's the Zionists. This is how I'll approach that. You see evil and it's evil, okay? It doesn't matter where it comes from or what the name is. And remember, the greatest trick the devil ever succeeded in doing was convincing people he doesn't exist. So, you just call it out where you see it. Does the Vatican, you look at the history of the thing and it talks, especially when you compare it to Revelations, and there are some very good arguments to say that things in the world are as people like you that are worried about the Jesuits say it is. But sometimes you can get too focused on one thing and not see the big picture. So I look at the big picture. And the big picture for me is I look at their fruits. It doesn't matter whether they're Jesuits or Zionists or deep staters like, Hillary Clinton, and Clapper, etc. You look at their fruits. And if they're doing evil, there are different arms of evil. Just like a nation has, the United States, it has an army, but it's divided up into armies, right? And corps. You probably don't know what I'm talking about, some of you, but basically, the first army is over here doing this, and the third army is over here doing that. The Air Force is doing this. Of course, there's coordination and all that. But the point is, evil is the same way. They're not all necessarily totally united with each other. I do believe that there is a spiritual entity that's guiding it. I do, if nothing else than just the spirit of, for lack of a better term, the spirit of Lucifer. I think it does guide it all, but I don't get locked into one thing. Okay, I think it's broader than that. I think it's deeper than that. Oh, and Sterali, okay, and I understand. Okay, I didn't mean to jump on you. What I'm saying is that yeah, I'll see if I can look into that a little bit for you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come on to you too strong there. It's just that if you know something about it, really take it upon yourself to discuss those things. I don't avoid any issue, not even about myself. I get a lot of attacks by people. Oh, you never talked about your background. Roy's trying to hide something. No, I've never hid anything. I've been a public figure since 1978, off and on. And anybody who's looked into me knows about that. The interesting thing is that people twist the information in order to accomplish whatever their objective is, and usually it's nefarious and nasty and slanderous and libelous. As a matter of fact, I was talking with or texting with somebody the other day, and a particular individual's name came up, and I won't say it here, but basically they lied about me, totally 100%. Actually, been a couple of them. That were brought up, and they both just flat out lied. Can't prove a damn thing they said, but they get the information out there for whatever their purposes are. Okay, but the point is that there's no subject I won't discuss. Well, there's some things that maybe judgment-wise are best not to cover, but I mean politically. Okay, so we'll look into that. But yeah, if you have a YouTube channel, definitely look into some of that. Okay, but I'm not choosing. It's not like I choose to avoid something because I don't want to reveal the truth about it. That's not the issue. It's time. It's we've already gone over an hour, and I'm probably putting people to sleep here because this was kind of a very general thing this morning. And I'll be honest with you, one of the reasons why I do these on a semi-regular basis is because there are people out there that think that they can shut me down. Well, I'll just tell you this. I'll shut down when I'm damn good and ready to shut down, and not before. Okay? Again, I'm not attacking any of you people, any of the folks that are here. I don't mean it that way. But there are people that are trying to, YouTube's lowering a lot of our numbers for a lot of conservatives. They're lowering our numbers on our clicks, on our views. Then people say, "Oh, look, you're falling apart. You're losing everything." I didn't come here for clicks, popularity, fame, or money. I came here to unload karma. And I'm probably, and I've said this before, you've heard me say this before, I'm probably at a point now where God has probably said, Roy, you've done it. You did it. Every day that you do this now, it's just your own business. And that's really what it's become at this point. At this point, what I do is almost because the people, it's one of my daughters, she's saying, yeah, tell them, Dad. When people try to, if you want to shut me up, leave me alone. And then I'll think I've succeeded and I'll go away. But when you're out there and you're saying, look at you, you're losing your numbers, we're destroying you, you're just going to have to give up. Well, guess what? Well, then I'm going to come on and I'm going to talk. Okay, so you really don't understand the psychology you're dealing with. Okay, and like I said, the one guy, I finally blocked him, and his name means nothing at all. So why would I pay attention if you know the language that he's using? His name means nothing at all. So why would I even address nothing at all? These people, I tell you what, they're crazy. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you for coming today. I appreciate the time that you come and spend. Pay attention to what's going on with these hearings. Let's not let them get away with whitewashing this. People need to be frickin' arrested and go to jail. This was a an espionage movement. They're trying to accuse Trump of espionage, but the fact of the matter is that the FBI and the IC and members of the State Department and other parts of other organizations in the government and corporations have been conducting espionage against the American people and the duly elected President of the United States. They are the ones that are guilty, and in the end, and I'll say it publicly here, in my estimation, the way that I look at this, there are not enough lampposts in the United States to hang them all. God bless you. God bless yours. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness up. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. People say, you keep saying it. Hey, it's better to be prepared, a year too early than a minute too late. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America and the Second American Revolution. And God bless President Donald Trump in all of his righteous endeavors. And may the Lord God bless him and let the spirit of discernment distill upon him as the dews from heaven, that he may know the difference between the right and the wrong, and most importantly, to have the courage to follow through with those things that are correct and right. Okay, that's this one. And like I say, it was very general, no specifics, but I just wanted to touch on the basic things today and just kind of let you know that we're still out and about. All right. Thanks for coming. We'll check out with this little one here. Hopefully it's not going to be the long one. I hit the wrong one when I started today, but we'll see what this one is like here. Okay. Out here, everybody, until next time. Thanks so much. And again, sorry if I got upset thinking that you think I can cover everything. But really, take some of this on yourself if you can and do it. And let's all have a voice, okay? All right, thanks. Out here.